You're listening to the Multiverse Fan Cast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
My name is Oliver Queen.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive.
My name is Kara Zor-El. I'm from Krypton.
Everyone, this is my cousin. I guess you already know. Okay, I think I have it. Oliver.
Green Arrow.
Dig.
Spartan.
Thea.
Speedy.
Okay. And Sarah.
White Canary.
Jax. And Professor Stein.
Firestorm.
Ray.
Palmer. The Atom.
And Mick.
Oh, Heatwave.
Always a pleasure to see you, Lucy. Hello? Don't believe we've met. Lucifer, Morningstar. Consider us even, John Constantine.
Constantine.
Is it? I don't care.
You ready? All right, then. On with the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Multiverse Fan Cast. I hope that wasn't too loud. This is Rob, who is hosting for the very first time, so you'll have to excuse me. It's my first day. So don't forget, on the Multiverse Fan Cast, you can take us on the go with Podbeam, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, or any other listening stations. We are all out there. We are in your face. We are everywhere you want to be. You can also check out our content on the website, themisfitfaction.com, which is just blowing up the innerverse out there, the computerverse, and we are hot. So I hope you check us out. We've got columns, we've got podcasts, we've got other cinematic adventures, we have bibliophiles assemble. We've got all sorts of great stuff on there. So check us out on the misfitfaction.com. As always, again, I'm third host, now promoted to regular host, Rob. And with me, as always, is Ronnie. Hi, Ronnie.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You're awfully giggly. Is everything going well in your life?
Everything is going better than well.
All right. I know we're looking forward to today's podcast because we're going to see all the ways that Rob can screw this up.
300%.
300% exactly. And also with me is Paul. Paul, how are you enjoying this debacle and car crash of a segment so far?
I'm just trying to fix the settings on all of our equipment as we go. Such big wavelengths on my screen right now.
I know. It's usually so like, hi and welcome to the multiverse. Hi, this is NPR.
Why is this Dr. It's like Dr. Ruth. What are you talking about? Hello and welcome to the Multiverse Fan Cast.
Today we're talking about...
Paul, you were doing well today?
I am doing so well and so entertained and so looking forward to editing afterwards.
So we've got a bunch of things on today's palette. And first, we're going to start off with a little bit of news. So this week in the news, Paul is handling our news.
I don't want to handle anything right now, but I'll do my very best.
I believe in you.
So we're going to be all over with news. There has been a fair amount of comic book movie related news, so that actually is exciting considering the current climate. On Cinematic Adventures, we had like 3 pieces of news for movies because it's a little slow, but it's picking up.
Kind of the dry season right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk first. Sony cast Aaron Taylor Johnson as Craven the Hunter in a Craven solo movie.
I'll bet you did not see that one coming.
I get it, because that's what he said. I hope he's better with bullets in this movie. Yeah. Oh, too soon.
Shots fired.
Yeah, and he didn't dodge a single one.
As long as they don't recast him.
Oh, yeah. Boner. What a boner that was. But anyway, yes, I will say I'm excited. I do like...
a hard letdown.
Yeah, there it is. I do like Aaron Taylor Johnson. We will eventually do his tenure as Kick-Ass, I think, on the show. At some point, absolutely. It is on our list. I want to see... I think he can pull off the Craven the Hunter. He just needs a better accent.
Well, one of the things I saw in reading about Craven the Hunter today was that they're sort of taking it not as him being the antagonist, that he's sort of like just a guy that gets... What's his story? He gets injected with something, or he gets exposed to plants or something when he's in Africa.
There's a lot of different stories, but they've tried to make him... He's been an anti-hero. He's been a villain. He killed, quote-unquote, Spider-Man once. Yeah. So, like, he's a character that's kind of been all over the map. I'm very excited to see what they're going to end up. I'd love to see him, like, hunting Morbius or hunting Venom, because that's Venom. All that same universe.
No, he is entering the Venomverse.
Maybe they could introduce Squirrel Girl.
they've been talking about Squirrel Girl. Talk about a character that has the weirdest following ever. She did defeat Thanos though once.
Oh yes, Anna Kendrick is we were all fanboying that one.
Yeah, a little bit. Going down with the news, we also have the Sandman on Netflix has named its entire cast, which I definitely have ready to go.
We're professionals.
You had one job.
I did. I have it. So we have Kirby Howell Baptiste will portray Death. I'm not really too familiar with this source material, but if you guys are watching Lucifer, which just premiered its season 5, part 2, based off this graphic novel. We also have Jenna Coleman as Joanna Constantine, the great-great-great-grandmother of John. David Thules as John D. and Patton Oswalt voicing Matthew. Then a bunch of other names that I'll never be able to pronounce correctly. Neum Walsh as Ethel Cripps. Oh, no. Nim Walsh and Jolie Richardson will alternate playing in Ethel Cripps.
Richardson.
Yeah, I like her. And Kyo Ra is Rose Walker.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just some of the cast that they've announced this week.
That this project is finally coming together, I think, is a miracle in itself.
Well, they just did
forever.
They just did an audiobook with James McAvoy, like a huge star-studded cast.
I believe Kat Dennings was in that
Yes.
audio, wasn't she?
Talking also about casting news, Emma Stone says that there's no possible way that she's going to be in Spider-Man at all.
Hashtag fake news.
Hashtag so fake news.
She's too busy with dogs.
Oh God! It took me a second. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
I have to ask: is Cruella a desire to be watched in your household?
Not for $30.
To be honest, it hasn't been discussed, but
really?
I'm sure.
I mentioned this because he has a. Is she preteen? Or is she teen?
She'll be 12 in like a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, Emma Stone's not that young.
It's her demo.
Yes.
But she hasn't mentioned that one.
No.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's going to be on the list. Like once it's out there on Disney Plus, you'll see it because we have it. So.
Yeah. Continuing with news, we have the Flash Season 8 is going to be introducing more crossover type events, starting off with a crossover type event. Unfortunately, COVID-19 made doing crossovers this year for all the Arrowverse shows exceptionally difficult. Even though they all film on the same lot, just trying to get to Vancouver has been troublesome for a lot of these actors. When Supernatural was doing its last season, all the actors talked about how difficult it was to really get back into the flow of things. Mm-hmm. But Black Lightning, supposedly, even though his show has ended, they're talking about him cameoing in The Flash. And the actor who plays him, Cress Williams, has said he's very excited because he thinks that he and Grant Gustin had a really good rapport.
I know there's a segue, but is Lucifer still in L.A. or did they go back to Vancouver?
To film?
Yeah. Because I know season 1 and season 2 was Vancouver, and then season 3 was in actually L.A. because they got some tax breaks. Any idea what 4 and 5 were?
I don't know off the top of my head.
To the internet.
Well, they have full casting, so...
Okay.
Like I said, Vancouver was very strict. Like Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, I listened to a podcast they were on called Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Highly recommend it. If you guys do listen to it, let them know that we sent you. But Michael Rosenbaum played Lex Luthor on Smallville for years, and he did an interview with both of them before the show ended, and they were saying, like, when they had to go back to Canada to film for the last couple of episodes of Supernatural, they had to quarantine for super long, like 2 weeks, and
season 4 was in LA.
Season 4 was LA, and I just found out season 5 was between Vancouver and LA.
Mm-hmm. I'm literally talking to you guys, and you guys are just playing on your computer.
He interrupted.
It's really.
I'm sorry. As the host, I need to say, Ronnie, wait your turn.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, continue with the news.
But anyway, so filming in Vancouver was exceptionally difficult. They had to quarantine for 2 weeks straight. They weren't allowed to leave their like the apartments or homes that they were in. So like it wasn't a pleasant experience, and that's why the last season.
And it was at the beginning of the pandemic too.
Oh yeah, like prime pandemic time. Let's see, going down. We the Eternals trailer.
Yay!
Let's talk about it.
I did just notice there is no "the" in the title.
I did too when I was looking it up. It's just Marvel's Eternals.
Yeah.
I am excited.
All right, here's a question for you, specifically for you, because you're the one that is always saying that Marvel has cookie cutter like. Pay attention. Marvel has cookie cutter like. Scripts and approaches. Mm-hmm. Does Eternals for you seem non-cookie cutterish?
It seems like Inhumans, but with a better budget.
Inhumans.
The teaser is super, super short. I am more
And
curious.
elusive
I'm
as
more
well.
curious as to like, hey, all these things are really bad. Like, should we do something? Nah.
I will say that I don't know if you had heard, but this week when Eternals trailer did come out, there was a lot of backlash because there was question as to why didn't they involve themselves when Thanos was doing stuff if they've been around
so
forever.
It's funny you say that. If you guys check out the Misfit Faction on Instagram or our Facebook page, I did just post 2 relatively funny pictures.
Huzzah to the tipper.
Yes, really funny pictures about the Eternals doing nothing, basically. I hope they address it. I hope they explain why.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who don't know, we were talking beforehand that Thanos is technically an Eternal. He's just a deviant. That's why he looks different. And ironically, in their culture, he was actually applauded for looking different than the rest of the people. So I hope they mention that, because they played a little fast and loose with Thanos' comic book more history. Like, in the comics, he did all this because he really wanted to have sex with Lady Death.
Yes, he courts death.
Yeah, and that's why in the first Avengers movie, when they say, like, to challenge them would be to court death, he's like, what?
He is into that.
Ironically, Lady Death is in love with Deadpool.
Yes.
And Thanos curses...
Doesn't Kat Dennings play Lady Death in the Sandman Audible?
Oh, maybe. I don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, different continuity, though. Yeah. But ironically, Thanos curses Deadpool with eternal life so he can never be with her.
There have been rumors, too, and I don't know how much credibility there is to us, that we may, in Eternals, see baby Thanos.
I know. And then you just see Don Cheadle coming up behind him with the garage.
That'd be great.
It's Thanos. That'd actually be really funny.
Explaining to do. Well, in a few years, this guy's going to be a problem.
It's the butterfly effect.
All right. And what else do we have for news?
We have Denai Guerrilla may reprise her role as Okoye for the Disney Plus series that they just announced.
Yeah.
She will be in Wakanda Forever, so that's exciting.
You might remember her from Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yep. No. Okoye wasn't in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No.
Oh, I didn't read the whole thing.
You mean you were thinking Io?
Oh, okay.
Io
I
was
didn't
in
read
that.
the entire article.
No, you get out of here, you.
Oh my
I just read the title.
If it's Marvel, I'm excited.
You got overexcited, sorry.
Marvel Secret Invasion added Christopher McDonald to their cast.
Yay, Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin. I'm excited to see him. Pretty much do. I'm okay with anything he does, basically.
I love him.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Powerpuff Girls pilot was reshot because it was that bad, or they're changing their story as much as they can.
All right.
Is it animated?
No,
it's live action. Yeah.
Starring Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
Or not Daisy Ridley. The girl who plays Daisy on Chloe Bennett on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
I
stars
love
as
her.
right.
I'm excited.
She's like the
Real
only thing
question.
I really liked. Ooh.
Who's the best one? Buttercup? Blossom?
My Powerpuff Girl knowledge is limited. I apologize.
You got Bubbles, Buttercup, and Blossom.
I was waiting to see if he knew all 3 names, much less.
Mine is Bubbles just because she wears blue, and blue's my favorite color.
I'm too old for this.
Yeah, if you were too young for this, we'd have other problems. And then last bit of news that I have is that they announced that Todd Phillips will be returning to write a Joker sequel.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, no news yet on whether or not we're going to have
Joaquin
Phoenix back, if they want to continue with their more anthology type story, but that's
it's intriguing.
No,
I would say. I would say intriguing is a good word.
Oh, God, I hated that movie.
Yes, but it's intriguing to see where they go from that movie, because it didn't really leave off to build up a sequel. That's why.
Well, because by the time Bruce Wayne's Batman, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is probably going to be in a senior citizen home.
Yeah.
Oh, Batman, you found me again.
7 years ago.
I can't find my makeup or my teeth. Anyway, but I think that's...
As for Joker, though, I have to say, this week I found myself rewatching some of the clips from Joker, specifically the scenes when he is on Murray's show.
Yes.
And in fact, I want to... here it is. This is... I want to shout out to Nerdstalgic. They are online on YouTube, and they have a great piece called "This is what an Oscar-winning Joker scene looks like," and they go through Joaquin's different choices as an actor during that scene, all of the going through different stages of acceptance and delving into madness. And you have to admit, regardless of what you might think of the movie, Joaquin really is just astounding.
Oh yeah,
God, yeah.
You
He
can't
really
argue
is.
his acting prowess. My real issue with the Joker movie is, first and foremost, some characters you just don't need to know.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
it's a nice Elseworlds. There we go.
Elseworlds.
Found it. Type story, which is fine. You know, in a world where everybody's talking about cinematic universes, I think it's sometimes nice that we're not necessarily there with some of these projects. But my real issue with that is the Joker. I don't want the Joker to be just a mentally handicapped person.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like, I love the Killing Joke, the graphic novel, not the
right,
movie.
not the movie.
The movie's terrible. The movie's but actually scratch that. That movie's a lot like the Joker movie, where I can watch the last certain amount.
If
Yeah.
you can break up the Joker movie, I'm sorry, the Killing Joke movie into half and only watch the half that's about, the actual
story.
Killing Joke, then yeah.
But the thing about that is, one of the best lines he delivers in that is that all it takes is one bad day. I would much rather see a totally normal person, like Under the Red Hood or stuff like that, where it's more, I'm this normal guy, and then just on one day my entire life is literally destroyed, and it sends me to a breaking point. Like, they tried to make us feel bad for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and there are points of the movie where you definitely do, where you're just like, oh man, poor guy. The movie succeeds in that, but it's also because of his performance.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the Joker, the legendary Joker.
I think that's where this movie suffers, is the fact that it was supposed to be a movie about the Joker, and it wasn't really. It was a movie about this guy that has these mental issues and just goes about his life. It wasn't like a Joker comic book type of movie. I think that's where it suffers from. If this was just named,
Taxi
Arthur,
Driver.
or
I see what you did.
yeah, but you know what I mean, like Arthur or something like that. It would have been a great movie, I'm sure. But I think the fact that you call it
King of
Joker,
Comedy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
But-
or even better if they had not even made promoted it as a Joker movie, and at the
Yeah.
end, then that maybe
Right.
that would have helped too. But I digress on that, because we have done whole episodes
Oh,
on
yeah.
the
Yes.
character. We did a character study, I think, on Joker not too
Yeah,
long ago.
we did, yeah.
So
A couple
if you
months
guys
ago.
want to hear more thoughts about it, you can definitely check that out. I'll link it when.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we're doing.
I guess.
when I'm doing promotion for this episode.
And that's the news?
I think that's the news.
All right. Well, we have a very special show ready for you. This week we sat down and we came up with a schedule for what we're going to be doing over the next month or two. And we decided, given that it is almost 15 years that 300 has come out, that we would do a spotlight on 300, which is Zack Snyder, of course, and you might know Zack Snyder right now from Army of the Dead. What?
Oh, I was just saying. No, I'm just going along with you. But fun fact about Army of the Dead: apparently, it is Netflix's most
Yes.
watched property.
Sorry, Paul is prompting me every once in a while, and I don't catch the before he scratched his nose, and I thought that was a signal, but no, he just had an itch.
Just allergies, but yeah.
So we are looking at Zack Snyder's 300 because Army of the Dead is very, very big right now, and I think we probably will mention a little bit about Army of the Dead because I had the pleasure. That's a questionable thing of watching it this week, but more importantly, we're going to be looking at Frank Miller. Frank Miller is our artist of the month, where we're going to be looking at 300, Sin City, probably The Spirit, and then next month we're going to move into some Neil Gaiman territory with Lucifer and going from there. So that wraps up this segment. So we're going to go to a commercial break right now. So everybody hang in there, and we'll be right back with 300.
Today's episode is brought to you by Raise Energy Drinks from Rep Sports. Whether you're trying to crush your afternoon workout or just need a little extra pick-me-up, Raise Energy is just the boost that you're going to need. So if you go to repsports.com and any product that you order, enter the code MISFIT89 at checkout to receive 15% off. Anything that you guys buy from that store helps our network grow, and we fully appreciate everything you guys do. That's MISFIT89 at checkout, repsports.com.
And we're back. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us here at the Misfit Faction, where we are now recording for our... we're not Cinematic Adventures. We are the Multiverse Fan Cast. Hello, everybody. Why don't we redo that?
Nope, it's still going. We're gonna keep it going. You don't get that.
It's my first day.
You don't get that luxury. You gotta earn that one.
Today we are looking at Zack Snyder's 300. Just to give you a little bit of background about Zack Snyder's 300, this is
299 came before it. There you go. There's your background.
I see what you did there.
Okay, all right. Just
I don't get it.
300 is based off of Frank Miller's seminal graphic novel, which is all about it's all about the Greek the Greeks and their Greeks and their attack with the 300. Now, I do not want to get into this is the history of the 300. This is what really happened. I don't think that's what we want to get into.
We will not discuss the
Battle
of Thermopylae.
Thermopylae. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go in that direction. But what I do want to discuss is how this is an adaptation of Frank Miller's work. I had the pleasure of reading Frank Miller's piece this week, which is, I'd encourage you to do so. It is not that long. It's about like 92 pages or something.
That's about 91 pages longer than I can do.
Ronnie's the reader of the group. So it was released. It was initially released in 2006. It premiered at the Austin Button-Umathon in December of 2006 and was finally released to both conventional theaters and IMAX on March 9th of 2007. And it was a huge hit. We were not expecting it to be a hit. In fact, now remember, too, this is about a year and a half after Frank Miller's Sin City, which was a modest success. It wasn't huge, and we are going to talk about Sin City next week. But when they made 300, they weren't really sure just exactly what kind of success they were going to get from this, and they were pleasantly surprised to find out that it made how much in its opening weekend?
Its opening weekend. I just have its
actual okay. What was the full box office?
Well, the budget was 60 to 65 million, and the box office was $500 million, $456.1 million.
On opening day, it made just over 28 million, and then but the weekend was just under 71 million.
Yes, it was.
What a huge, especially like this was Zack Snyder before. It's so weird because I hate to say it that Army of the Dead right now is Netflix's biggest movie because of everything that's happening right now with Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I enjoy Zack Snyder's work. I enjoy his movies. I will be the first one to say, though, they are not necessarily good movies. They're beautiful aesthetic movies.
Yes.
They're he's got an eye for cinematography. He's got an eye for cutting trailers. He does really good work visually, but the reason that this movie 300 is so good or good enough is that it's a very simple script.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that about what exactly makes Frank Miller's piece so great, and the different layers to it, because we've all said this before, that when Zack Snyder adapts other people's work and he's not writing the screenplay, it usually comes out really, really well. You know, hence Dawn of the Dead. And which was a James Gunn script.
I'll argue Watchmen, because Watchmen, it is very faithful to the graphic novel. I think what they did with the ending was the better choice at the time, and visually, it's panel to screen, man. Like it is. There's some great shots. Even in this movie too. Even the scene of him kicking him into the pit was.
Oh yeah.
It still looks great.
I would actually defend Watchmen too. I think it gets a lot of hate, but it is. I think it's missing on a lot of the deeper themes and layers that is in the text, because it makes. All right, I think we can all agree to this too. That Zack Snyder's filmmaking philosophy is, I want it to look cool.
And you know what? The rule of cool does abide. Like the rule of cool. There are a lot of movies. Fast and Furious has made a killing with the rule of cool. Like Fast and Furious gave up on physics 3 movies ago.
Oh yeah, and now with F9, which I'm pretty sure if you hit
space,
I'm pretty sure if you hit F9 on your keyboard, that it actually makes and prints out a new Fast and Furious script.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sorry, I stole that joke from Stephen Colbert.
That's actually pretty funny though. But
or Seth Meyers, I forget. I watched a lot of them today.
If either of you guys are listening, we apologize.
Yeah.
But the rule of cool does take you far, and there are some franchises, like I said, that really do well with it. Like, and then you have some movies like Avengers Endgame is a perfect example of the balance between the rule of cool and a half decent script. Not to say that Avengers has a half decent script; it's actually a very good movie. But you watch Avengers Endgame, the first 2/3 of it are actually very slow and
Yeah.
I don't want to say boring is not the right word, but it's your bookend. And then Avengers Endgame, like the last 30 minutes, is just nonstop rule of cool. Like you got Spider-Man holding on to Mjolnir, like really cool.
And I've heard, and I know I'm making fun of Zack Snyder a little bit, but he really has said that. I watched an interview with him yesterday where he was just talking about we have to make it look cool when he was talking about 300, and that's unfortunately, it's a great philosophy, but unfortunately that's his overriding philosophy sometimes. Because like with Watchmen, he just wanted to make them look cool. Where in Watchmen, these are characters that don't like their powers and don't like that they need to be heroes, and yet he made them look. He makes Rorschach look so cool in his movie.
Well, Rorschach is the only one that actually likes what he does.
Bro, and Rorschach is kind of he hates the world and in the comics and he's a reluctant hero.
Very. Well, actually, like in the comics, he's not even like a reluctant hero. He wants to save the planet, but not the people. Sometimes it feels like so. He's an interesting character. I think that for the most part, the movie caught him. Probably better than some of the other characters, like like Dan or slash Night Owl.
Dan, I think they do him a lot of disservice in the movie.
Yeah, but they do the best with what they have time for, and unfortunately, something like Watchmen. That's why the show has been lauded by critics.
Have
for
you guys
being
watched
so good.
it?
I've watched half of it. I have not finished it.
Have you watched it at all?
No.
I've seen the whole thing. It is just I couldn't. I watched it when it came out, and I was so annoyed that I had to wait a week between episodes because I was so into it.
Yeah. I from what I saw, it was very good, and I want to eventually finish it. But it reminds me too much of Doom Patrol. Which I still got to finish season 2.
We have to finish.
Yeah, but for this movie, like this was his first showing of creating a world that was almost bigger than ours.
Yeah.
Even though this is quote unquote a historical movie based on historical facts, this was I do enjoy for the most part that he does make his characters appear godlike.
Oh yeah.
Like all of these, as much as they make fun of the cast of 300 for being overly jacked and like the spray on abs, quote unquote, like all these guys did get into very good shape for this movie.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But like the best example I find is Zeus in the Zack Snyder Justice League, where he is just like pure rocks. Like it's an exaggeration of what these characters, and that's what comic books were. They were. There's the famous picture of Captain America where he's like basically like a balloon.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like the 90s were very famous for the overly jacked characters.
To contextualize this a little bit, 300 comes after Zack Snyder's second film, his first film. Sorry, so this 300 is his second film. First one being Dawn of the Dead,
Fantastic movie.
It was a big surprise. Everyone loved it. We didn't see it coming. It was a nice entry into the sort of George Romero universe, which we're big fans of. And this was right before Watchmen. He followed this up with then Sucker Punch,
which is another movie.
Yeah. Actually, I should say first he followed it up with Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, but that doesn't really count.
I've heard mixed things about that movie. I haven't seen it myself, but Sucker Punch is another movie that it sucks because like it's like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not as funny. But for Sucker Punch,
that was a good
Sucker
metaphor
Punch,
there. Yeah.
That's the exact definition. If I have to, like, there's one thing having a conversation about a movie, like Inception. Inception's a movie that you can have conversations about.
Right.
Yes.
Was he really dreaming at the end? Was it this? Was it that? You can have conversations and you can argue with or debate. We like to debate here. But for a movie like Sucker Punch, I have to explain to people, well, the reason this is happening is because of this, and that's because I read in an interview. Like, I will never say that Sucker Punch is a good movie, but it's a movie that I can sit down, I can watch if it's on, I can enjoy the parts of it that, like, the opening scene is beautifully done with Sweet Dreams playing.
And it's now here's my argument is why I bring this up is because I think 300 was the movie where Zack Snyder was praised for because it looked so cool and he created this it was a comic book come to life.
Yeah.
And then he went crazy with that idea and everything after that seemed to just keep following in that I have to make it look just like the comic because that will make it look cool.
Well, also this was 2007? right?
This
Yeah.
300 came out in 2006.
This
yeah,
was-
2006-7. Yeah, sorry.
This was the time where comic book movies were not a guarantee.
No, this is before Iron Man.
Before Iron Man, before the MCU, and even the MCU played it really safe with how comic book, like the comic book moments. Like this was the time where comic book movies were not a proven thing. Like they were still a risk. You know, it wasn't until really Spider-Man that they were like, "Hey, we could take things from comic books and put them on the
Sam
screen."
Raimi's Spider-Man? Yeah.
You know, even X-Men, they still joke around about how X-Men played it so safe that they wore leather.
Yeah.
That was the Matrix era. So for this movie, also a lot of people didn't know this was a comic book.
No.
And I think that actually helped it.
I think, and actually maybe that's one of the things that made this such an important work is because 300 is not a superhero comic book. You know, you don't have Captain America, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman in there. You have,
and
like,
they all die.
And this is spoilers. Holy cow!
Whoops.
So this is a historical comic book, and having read the graphic novel this week, I will tell you, yes, that what you're seeing on screen is almost exactly what Frank Miller had in his graphic novel, and it's astounding. It's really great. It's exactly what, like, you know, for those of you who don't think graphic novels and comic books are real reading, you really need to read 300 to see how there is a lot of nuance and a lot of layers to it. So let's talk about this movie a little bit. The world was introduced to Gerard Butler at this point.
Sorry, you want to go through the whole cast? I got the cast list.
Oh,
all set
sure.
up.
You want to do that?
All right. So you want me to read them off first, and then we'll talk about whoever we want to talk about?
Sure.
All right. So as mentioned, Gerard Butler as Leonidas, King of Sparta. This was his star-making vehicle, and he really hasn't hit it since. He's had some moderate successes.
Had the same level of success. You know, I know Olympus Has Fallen has its like.
Yes.
It's got its crowd.
Got its crowd.
We have David Wenham as Dilios. I'm actually a big fan of him. I like him in a lot of different things that I've seen. Lena Headey as Queen Gorgo.
Yes.
Yep.
And now you guys are not Game of Thrones fans, so I got to call it out. Huge. It was so great having having watched Game of Thrones and then revisiting 300 and seeing her on screen. It was like, wow, there she is. She's there. And it was so cool seeing what.
I'll do you one better.
Oh.
Did you see Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles?
I think I did.
She was fantastic as Sarah Connor. She was Sarah Connor.
She was Sarah Connor?
She was Sarah Connor.
I don't
and
think I
she
knew that.
was that's the I knew her from this movie, but it was that show that really got me familiar with her. But she's fantastic in it.
Oh yeah.
Giovanni.
See, we know her as a lot of us know her as Cersei Lannister on Game of Thrones.
Yep. One day we'll have to get Melanie onto the podcast to talk about Game of Thrones.
Oh, you're a Game of Thrones person? She's
producer
watching.
Melanie is in the background, just so you guys know.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Game of Thrones. We've watched the entire show twice. It's real quick. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Last season. Ooh,
right in the middle of the road. Yeah,
it's in the middle, which is higher than most people.
What's Game of Thrones?
It's a chair.
Okay.
All right, continuing
I've yet
with
to
the
see a single second of that show.
I'm gonna butcher some of these names.
Right.
Giovanni Siminio as the son of Leonidas and Gorgo. I cannot.
Pistarchus.
There's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, not in the comic. Apparently, Queen Gorgo had a much larger role in this film than she does in the comic book, which I thoroughly enjoy. Yeah.
I will say that all of the scenes where she is with the Senate and talking with Theron are not in the comic book.
No, she's only in the beginning in the comic book.
In fact, the majority of the comic book is really just the 300 Spartans.
Yeah.
We have Dominic West as Theron, the bad guy, basically.
Yeah.
He's always a bad guy.
What else is he a bad guy? He's one of those guys where it's that guy.
Yeah,
I know him when I see him.
He was the bad guy in Punisher Warzone. Okay. He played Jigsaw.
He was in The Wire.
He was in The Wire, Chicago.
That's where I know him from.
John Carter, which oh god, what a movie!
How could I forget about The Wire? Okay, now it all comes together for me.
There we go.
He was in Tomb Raider in the 2018 Tomb Raider.
He was.
Yeah, Finding Dory. Yeah, I do enjoy him, but he's typically the bad guy.
Okay. And now, except in The Wire, where he's the great guy. He really is. He's the why. He's the heart and soul of that show.
We got Vincent Regan as Captain Artemis. I'm just gonna blast through these. Tom Wisdom as Astinios. That's the son who dies. The son of the captain. Andrew Pleven as Daxos. Andrew Tiernan as Ephistoles, the deformed one.
I love your tackling of Greek names.
I'm doing my very best.
As someone who has grown up Greek, this is a great joy to watch.
Why wouldn't you tell me that before I started butchering these?
You don't know I'm Greek?
I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh, I was raised Greek.
I don't know your childhood.
You got Rodrigo Santoro as King Xerxes.
Thank you.
Got that one right.
Yeah. Stephen McKittle as the Loyalist. Michael Fassbender as Diniacus.
Is it Michael Fassbender Stelios?
No,
that's what I've got on IMDb here.
Diniacus.
Sure.
He's Diniacus.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking. Wikipedia is way more resourceful.
All right.
Peter Menish as a Persian messenger who gets kicked into the well by Leonidas. Oh god, poor guy. And then you got a lot of
other people.
young Leonidas.
What about Kelly Craig
as Pythia, Oracle to the E4s?
So it's a lot of really well-toned men, and then there's like 2 women, I believe, in the entire
Yes,
thing.
there is a very, very small
I
amount
think
of women
there's
in
like
this.
2 like main women, but you got the women in the background too.
First of all, we want to draw attention to the fact that this was Michael Fassbender's like big screen debut, and it was shocking to see him in this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Fassbender, and he stands out a little bit because he's Michael Fassbender.
He has some good moments.
Yeah.
But I think at the time I didn't really notice him at all. And of course he goes on to play Magneto as well as many other great roles.
He's another actor that kind of exploded, not from this movie, but just in general.
Gerard Butler, I think, is the only one that got any sort of lasting attention from this.
Yeah, everyone else is like your B, C list people.
God,
he's kind of like a high B, low A.
So I looked into the train. First of all, one of the biggest things that you can't get past in this is just how ripped everybody is.
Oh, absolutely.
And I looked into it.
They must have worked out a lot.
They worked out for 8 weeks straight going into this. Easily, they said, Gerard Butler said, easily 4 hours a day. Hardcore working out, and I watched videos of him like on set where he was like with weights and working out and doing push-ups, and I have to say the abs were not as sprayed on as we initially thought.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they did probably do some sort of editing with it, and also you got the grain that they use, the lighting that they use. It's a very comic booky in its look and its aesthetic. So it adds to it, but like you watch any of especially the Zack Snyder movies with, you see Henry Cavill is a jacked dude.
Oh yeah.
Even Ben Affleck got into great shape to play Batman, and then he openly says he's like, I hate doing working out and eating healthy and all that. So like the second the movie's over, I'm like, and even in the reshoots for Zack Snyder's Justice League, you can see how like thin he is. But Gal Gadot too, like Jason Momoa, obviously.
Zack Snyder loves his big, beefy guys.
Yeah.
If you look at every movie he's done, there's always these giant, like overly masculine men that are just dripping testosterone. And 300 was sort of one of the first ones for that in his Snyderverse. And
I think though that there is always a nice. You should have a healthy blend of it, but like there masculinity, especially like the toxic masculinity, has really been corrected in more modern films. Like, but I have no problem. Like Marvel's just as guilty of it too with their like Chris Hemsworth has gone on record more than once going, I hate the gratuitous shirtless scenes. I hate doing them because
but this was back in. Was this 490 BC, somewhere around there? Like that.
Sit-ups just got invented, guys. They were
like,
all the rage.
But no, like this is what they looked like back then.
This is Spartans
were Greeks I grew up with.
Yeah,
I know, right?
They were warriors. That's all they did was fight and train every single day from morning.
And unfortunately,
to night.
They show in that opening scene, if there was something wrong with the baby,
out they go.
Yeah, out the door.
Which
fast.
I have to admit, I was a little. All right, let me ask you guys this: does this? And here's a question: does this movie hold up?
I think so.
Okay.
And I'll say the thing about historically based movies is they have a longer shelf life than non-historical based movies.
Okay.
Here's an example. On Cinematic
Even
Adventure,
though the historical stuff in this is inaccurate.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we're okay with that. I think we buy into the idea that it's not the actual things that are happening.
Yeah.
But yes, continue.
So here's my example, as I was saying. On Cinematic Adventures tonight, we did a movie called Fanboys. Fanboys was filmed.
Classic.
It's a great one.
I haven't watched that yet.
I have it upstairs.
Oh, I should borrow it.
You should borrow it sometime. So Fanboys came out.
This is
around
every week, everyone.
It came out around the same time, like 2006, 2007.
Okay.
But it takes place in 1999. So a lot of the vernacular that they use is very reminiscent. They drop the R word, which is not culturally appropriate right now. Or another example, more recent, the Friends reunion. Premiered on HBO Max. And to prepare for it, I was watching Friends with my amazing wife, who is a huge fan. But as we're watching it, I'm sitting there, and she'll tell you I said this. I was like, man, a lot of this doesn't hold up anymore. And she
Really?
It's very it's the 90s though. Like unfortunately, comments about dealing with homosexuality and sexuality and they're all whites, like all those things were common trope. Okay. So that's why things like that don't always necessarily age particularly well. Even though I do enjoy Friends and I still chuckle at it, but just don't tell my wife how much I actually do enjoy it. But
and this is sort of the topic I was working towards, and I'm glad you're getting.
Yeah. So for a movie like 300, where yes, it is a big movie about masculinity and about warriors, and you also have to look at it
and child abuse. Don't forget.
Child abuse, and very, very. Excessive.
In the first 3 minutes, he slaps a 7-year-old.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Back when this movie first came out,
child abuse was okay.
I mean, yes. I mean, to be honest, it was.
We here on the Multiverse Fan Cast do not condone child abuse in any way, shape, or form.
No, we don't. But back then, it wasn't something you heard of, and it was I guess it was frowned upon. But you know what I mean? It wasn't made as such a big deal as that is in literally anything else.
We more frowned upon the parents that spank their kids, whereas now it's you're canceled.
Do that. Yeah, exactly. I hate to say this,
you're legally
but
protected,
some kids nowadays need to get spanked by their parent.
Oh my god.
But you know what I mean? There's kids that you see out in public or whatever, and you're like, if that was me when I was younger, my parent would have.
Opinions of Ronnie do not reflect those of the Multiverse Fan Cast.
No, but
I'm kind of with him.
But you know what I mean?
Nope.
When we were kids, if we acted out, our parents would, not all the time, but they would hit us, depending on what it is. You would get hit. Nowadays, you hit your kid and you're going to jail. Back when we were younger, it was quote unquote okay.
Okay.
So. I don't know. I think I think the
I'll
go up, but I think the world is getting a little soft.
I think in regards to this movie, I think the best way to contextualize it is 495 Sparta versus 2021. Same scene, filmed in different contexts. 495, socially we understand, historically we understand. Life was a lot different. You show the same scene taking place during modern day, canceled. Yeah. This movie, that's just that. Unfortunately, just like child brides at the age of 12. You got married when you were 12, 13 to a wealthy plantation owner. Historically, it's one thing. But for this movie, I had no problem with the opening scene. But again, it's because it's a movie.
Right.
Let's start there. But also B, I have no problem with revisiting history because history is not necessarily a pretty thing. Mm-hmm. I think that it's very important that we look back at our histories and things don't get erased and things are still remembered. And in terms of the Spartans were a warrior people, absolutely. But there's a reason why that culture is not around anymore.
No. I might also add too that I read the other day that although he makes a joke in there about the other Greeks, I think it was about the Persians, was it? About them loving boys?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was actually the opposite, that the Spartans were the ones that did that.
Ancient Greek cultures were very big on male relationships.
Because that was considered a compliment if, as a mentor, you had a sexual intimate relationship with your mentees, because it meant that you were achieving a certain level of education and intimacy with them that was celebrated.
Yeah.
How about this then, as a question on this related topic, the fact that Xerxes is somewhat effeminate?
That doesn't bother me because also Leonidas does not attack it. Like there's a point,
Yeah, that is true.
which shows a lot. Leonidas was a historical figure. He actually existed. In fact, the line where he says "come and get them" in regard, like when they say
That's an actual
that's
line.
an actual line
Yes,
by
it
King
is.
Leonidas, and also like "come back with your shield" or "on it."
Yep.
That's a very common
Yeah.
Spartan phrase. Leonidas doesn't like. There was a point in movies where Leonidas would have turned around and been like, "Oh, get off me, you whatever word you want to put in there."
Right.
Bill and Ted did it. Bill and Ted had
Yeah.
a really derogatory gay line in it.
Yes.
But we still love Bill and Ted.
Yeah,
Like,
Bill and Ted are not canceled.
no.
Yeah.
Is that line edited out every time it's on TV? Absolutely. But like they don't make a deal of it where it's I have no problem with Xerxes he's bigger than life. And I can see him being one of those people like, "Hey, I'm all about what feels good, what I enjoy, man." Like did you see the movie Paul with
I know it, but I haven't seen it.
So there's a great line where Seth Rogen's character, like, he's talking to them and he's, asking if they're, if they're lovers. And they get offended and he's like, "Whoa, on my planet everybody's bi. Like, it's all about the pleasure thing. We don't care." So when I think Xerxes, I don't necessarily think, and plus he's hosting the orgy after this.
Do you think Zack Snyder would have gotten flack for putting a Xerxes-like character nowadays?
I think he did get flack for Xerxes.
Probably not as much as he.
Traditionally, he's of a different ethnicity.
Xerxes.
Persians are like from your Middle Eastern, like your Iraq, Iran, and he's in the movie more like African descent.
Right, but like in terms of him being somewhat effeminate and being.
I think if anything, it'd be actually celebrated now.
Okay. All right.
Because we're also, it's amazing what 15-ish years does to like the world perspective. Things have changed since the early 2000s in terms of character. Like look at a show like Supergirl where they have transgender superheroes, they have gay superheroes. Like it's a different world, and I have no problem with it, and I actually enjoy seeing a little bit of diversity in that regards. I had no problem with Xerxes, and. Well, besides the fact that he was a terrible person to be, character-wise.
Other than the slaughter and demolition of his armies.
But also,
he's not bad.
He was a king. And he may not have been a warrior king like Leonidas, but he was still a king, and he was building his empire. Empire is unfortunate. Like, I hate to say it, and I think Zod says it. He's like, a foundation has to be built on something.
Okay.
Throughout history, like even the United States, and don't get me wrong, I'm a patriot. I don't think my country's perfect, but I'm proud of my country. We weren't playing rock, paper, scissors to get where we are. So I don't have a problem with Xerxes character-wise. I think because this movie takes place at a time where a lot of this was socially acceptable, the cancel culture of it would not be as relevant. It's still not as relevant.
Okay.
Like, this movie will still be on TNT on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
We were watching Gladiator not an hour ago on TV.
I have to say, I was, back in 2007, I was showing clips of this when I was teaching the Odyssey to show, sort of that time period. So,
but I mean, like the Odyssey is a perfect example, or Oedipus Rex, like all those old tragedies. Romeo and Juliet is teen suicide. They knew each other for 3 days.
Yeah.
But we still call people that are in a relationship a Romeo and Juliet. Like, where's the cancel aspect of that? So for me, I think this, because like I said, this movie has a historical concept. It takes place at a time where certain things were just okay. Even like when Lena Headey's character is like talking to the Senate, they're like, who is this? She's a queen.
Yeah.
And they're still going, well, who's this trophy wife coming to talk to us?
And that line that she says, they say, I forget if she says it or who says it, that of, how is she able to talk, on your behalf? Well, she births Spartan soldiers. And so,
she births men or not,
That's an actual line, too.
Yes.
That's from original documents from long ago. So we have Persian King Xerxes. He leads an army of 100,000 men to Greece, and he's confronted by the 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans. And Xerxes waits out for 10 days for King Leonidas to surrender, and it's all about that 3 days of battle where the Greeks were killed. So that's what we've got for a plot for a movie. So it's as Paul was saying, it is a fairly simple plot, but is it all that simple of a story?
I think the thing that gets people like fired up about this movie is it is an underdog story, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because we see the Spartans as like these more than human type characters, you know, ripped abs, beautiful women, culture, like we see them, but they're the underdogs in it, and there's nothing more badass than the fact that they're winning.
I mean, we were even rooting for Zack Snyder for a while as the underdog when the Snyder Cut was coming up.
Yeah.
So but we love an underdog.
And even say what you will about the Snyder Cut, we have a great episode on it. We did we made a whole night of it, and then we recorded after with Sean from Cinematic Adventures. Say what you will about the Snyder Cut, the process of getting it done alone. Even Rob, I know you're not a big Snyder fan,
right.
but like. I think even you appreciate the journey that this thing went on.
I may not have fully enjoyed the movie and thought it was way overlong, but I celebrate the movie because of what it represents.
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Like even this movie, Warner Brothers wanted a PG-13 movie.
Yes, I saw that.
That would have, don't get me wrong, I am not, and Ronnie and I have discussed this at length because he's a huge Deadpool fan.
Mm-hmm.
And for Deadpool, the creator of Deadpool recently said in an interview that Deadpool can be done PG-13 because of Ryan Reynolds. To a point, I agree. But for a movie like this, trying to make it PG-13 is just
how. There's too much violence
and the sexual stuff and all that stuff.
There's not as much sexual stuff as I originally remembered. There's just him and there's the
him
scene,
and Lena
the
Headey,
Oracle,
right? the Oracle,
and then the Oracle,
and the orgy.
I don't remember seeing.
It's when Ephisteles.
When you get home, you can watch it.
I forgot that.
It's when he goes to Xerxes, and Xerxes asks what he wants in exchange for information about the goat path.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I
forgot about that.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the action, because I think that's what this movie is remembered most for, is those incredible action shots. So
before the action starts, it's so boring.
I have a fact. Yes. Yeah, I think. What was the thing that you turned it off right before he got kicked into the pit?
No. So we off air. Me and Paul were talking about it, and I was saying, I tried watching it this week, and I only got up to the part where the Oracle is there. Right after she gets licked by the mutated. What were they? Were they not gods, but like the councilmen or whatever?
With the bad acne.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
After she gets licked by them, that's where I kind of was just like, do I really have to watch it? Like I was sitting there and I was going, should I just fast forward to the action, just watch the action? Like from the point from the kick on until the action starts, it's like. Like let's get to the fighting. I think it's just more because I already saw the movie. I know what happens before the fighting. So it's just sitting there going, all right, let's get to the fighting. Let's get to the action. Come on, let's go already. I saw the kick. That's all you got to see in the first, 25, 30 minutes of the movie. And then the last hour or so is where the action happens. But
so here's a question for you guys. This is coming from CinemaSins, so take it with a grain of salt. They estimated that there are approximately 375 slow motion scenes in this movie of about 12 seconds each, which totals to about 30 minutes of slow motion in this scene.
Here's my thoughts.
All right, go ahead.
It.
I have a question, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Oh, okay. You want to ask your question first? I don't mind.
No, go ahead.
All right. So there are certain scenes in this movie that are made by the slow-mo. I'll justify the slow-mo in this.
Falling into the pit.
The pit scene that when he kicks him, it is definitely worth the slow-mo. It just adds something to it. There's a great scene where Michael Fassbender's after he jumps over the wall and he's doing kind of that very slow. And Leonidas does it too, where he's like changing weapons and switching and then attacking, and it's cutting from fast to slow to fast to slow.
Right.
That stuff is really good. This was before Zack Snyder really started to rely on it, and also it's very cinematic in how it's done. Like the shot of them kicking the Persians over the cliff. Let's give them something to drink, because it's
ripped right from Frank Miller's work.
Because of the backgrounds and the coloring and everything, it makes it that much better. And I think the fact that it also has narration to it, when it's just slow-mo, you have to just focus on the slow-mo, but the fact that you still have the narrator who's talking during this, it doesn't make it feel slow. So you get the beautiful aesthetic, you get the pacing that's still being done properly because of the narration that's keeping it moving. Because sometimes narration can really be a crux.
Yes. Here it is not, I have to argue.
Well,
Go
ahead.
I
was going to say,
it's very Homeric.
So, and the reason I like the narration is because this is a story that's being told, and it makes it so that I can understand why all these guys are jacked gods, basically, because he's trying to hype his boys up before their fight. Telling the story of the great King Leonidas, who was this god of a man who killed this could all be, excuse my language, bullshit.
Yeah.
And he is just literally like getting the crowd moving.
Yeah. Well, and it's very, like, for those who have read the Odyssey, it is, the Odyssey starts off with a narrator of let me tell you the story about, Odysseus and how he did this and came through this. And Frank Miller wrote it in the style of Homer, with the Odyssey, which is why it works here. And I think Paul hit that right on the nose too with, this was sort of the first time that we are seeing this slow motion action, and it's not gratuitous because we've never seen it before. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
At times, it's like, all right, does this really have to be slow mo? I wouldn't. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. I'm sure if I rewatch the movie in entirety and everything, I could be like, all right. This you didn't need slow-mo and everything. But like you said, back when this came out in 2007, there was no slow-mo really when it came to action. Everything was action, fast-paced, just going. So it was kind of cool to see it in slow-mo and everything like that. But nowadays, it's just overused. Not just by Zack Snyder, but by anyone that does action movies. Like, they tend to do slow-mo and everything like that, and it's kind of like, all right, now it's getting repetitive. We know what it looks like when somebody gets punched in the face.
Well, that's why a movie like John Wick is so good, because it is all quote-unquote real time.
It's choreographed.
Now, you look at a movie like Justice League, Zack Snyder. If we're going to say Justice League, I'm just going to assume we're referring to Zack Snyder.
Yeah, the other one doesn't exist.
You look at Justice League, and the only time slow motion is really justified is when you're dealing with a character who perceives time differently. The Flash, even Wonder Woman or Superman, those slow motion shots are great.
Yes.
And it makes me glad that, yes, there's a lot of slow motion in Justice League. I'll be honest with it. But for characters like The Flash, it makes sense.
Right.
For even characters like Wonder Woman, where she's like looking in the, for them it was more just adding the overdramatic Amazon music every time Wonder Woman looked at you. But there's some great moments in that, and I think if slow motion can be totally justified and done right, but it wasn't until Sucker Punch that he really started going
leaned into it.
Yeah, like even like the shots, some of the shots would have looked cooler as in fast motion. Like, look at Wonder Woman in Justice League when she's catching the bullets.
Yeah.
It looks a little goofy at times, but it's still at the same time. I was like, well, that's how people would see it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how the world would perceive this universe. Melanie and I were watching the show Invincible last night. We watched the first episode. Very The Boys. It's like animated The Boys. And there's a character called Red Rush, and he's got super speed. And he's talking about how he perceives the world so much differently than other people that when he's having a conversation with somebody, it's hours to him. And I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know we're not talking about Justice League or superhero movies in general, but this is the Multiverse Fan Cast. We're talking comics. I like comic book properties that talk about what these powers actually do to the world around them. And Man of Steel was a great example of, like, Superman telling Lois Lane, you should probably take a few steps back before I take off. Like, little things like that. More. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Like, things like that were always interesting to me. And then, like, I like to see character progression where eventually it gets to a point where Superman can just carry somebody. Like, stuff like that was always... I enjoy that little extra.
So I'm thinking about this now because 300 clocks in at an hour 56. And in fact, I think credits roll somewhere around 145.
Yeah.
So it is not that long. But now I'm looking at some of his other stuff, like, Watchmen. clocks in at
7 hours.
Well, I will say
the director's cut.
Yeah, it depends
4?
on what cut.
4-ish.
Well, the 4-ish one incorporates the I want to say the Dawn Treader, but I know that's not
the pirate ship and the animated
Dawn
stuff.
Treader
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Narnia.
Yeah, I was about to say.
This is Narnia.
You leave my Jesus allegory line alone.
Sucker Punch is 150. Man of Steel is like 2.5. Like, yeah, I and even Army of the Dead was 225.
It's a long, but
that is
also,
a long zombie movie.
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny because Netflix didn't want to be Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is not looking good right now with all this Zack Snyder stuff, because it's not just Zack Snyder. It's also Ray Fisher. It's a lot of other things. Like, Warner Brothers is not.
No.
They're in a very, and they're not doing anything to fix it.
No.
Like, we don't want Green Lantern in the movie. Why?
Right?
Like
one of your biggest characters.
And all they have to do is say, "We're making the show."
Right. If they give us some
it's their
justification.
It's their silence that, and everybody's like, "Well, because they don't want a black Green Lantern." It may not be, but whoever's doing PR for Warner Brothers is really just like digging themselves deeper and deeper.
And you're right. I think possibly Netflix auto-corrected into the wrong direction. Not wrong direction. Too far into that direction.
It catered to a director who, again, I like Zack Snyder. I enjoy his work because I like visual. I like visual storytelling, and I like things that are a little bit deeper. But they over-catered to a director that I hate to say it hasn't earned it.
Zack Snyder.
I don't think it was because of Zack Snyder. I think that's just Netflix's model. Netflix, I think, is more just like, hey, we're going to pay you all this money to make a movie. You do whatever you want. Right. We're not going to interfere, because it happens. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of the Netflix movies are
Yeah, agreed.
Like their shows are pretty good and everything, but most of their movies, I haven't seen too many of them, but the ones I have seen, it's like, because I think they just go, hey, so-and-so director, make your movie, and you can make it how you want, instead of going to the studio, and your movie's not your movie.
Let me give you an example of that. If you've ever seen the film Donnie Darko.
Oh, God, my brain. Ow.
No. Donnie Darko's Richard Kelly is a great example of this, whereas Richard Kelly's, I don't know if you've ever seen the director's cut of Donnie Darko.
No.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Because what happened was that the studio saw it, and they were like, we need you to fix this, 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 and this, and they reined him in. Mm-hmm. And then Richard Kelly then went on to make another movie called Southland Tales.
God, I vaguely remember that movie.
I think it's brilliant, but it is way out of control. Mm-hmm. In fact, it has The Rock in it. I'm looking at IMDb here, has it at a 5.4. It is quite
average.
Terrible because no one was reining in Richard Kelly.
Yeah.
Whereas with Donnie Darko, someone was reining him in, and we got a great movie. And I think that's the problem with Zack Snyder, is that Zack Snyder reined in is good. I think he produces some great stuff. But when he is given free rein to do whatever he wants, it's just a travesty.
Yeah.
Army of the Dead is not a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys haven't got a chance to see it yet, but I watched it this week, and I will say that it is, as someone who loves the zombie genre, it was way overlong. There were scenes that went on for way too long. It was characters I didn't care about, and it was a lot of not zombie action. Mm-hmm. And I think if you cut 45 minutes out of this movie, you might have actually had a good movie. But it was, as it is not good. Whereas 300, you have him being anchored by Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing about Zack Snyder needs like the Russo brothers. Mm-hmm. He needs somebody that's like, Zack, this looks really cool, but why is it happening?
Yeah.
He needs that, and
he needs fewer yes men and more people criticizing.
Yes.
Not even criticizing, just being constructive with him. If I went up to Zack Snyder, needs a strong script with somebody who's going to stay there and be like, no, this is my script. This is why this is happening. This is what's happening. And make it look cool, but also follow the script. Yeah. When you give Zack Snyder free reign, unfortunately, the product can be mixed. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I enjoy Sucker Punch, but I will never tell anybody it's a great movie. Like, visually, it's beautiful, and I understand it because I don't consider myself a common moviegoer. You know, I do podcasts. Like, you know, we're sitting here, we're at almost about an hour and 3 minutes just talking about 300. A movie that's 15 years old, but we're breaking it down in ways that your average moviegoer is not going to be like, well, I do believe that this part of the movie was not exactly historically like. No. But that's part of what we do, and that's why I enjoy Zack Snyder, because he leads the conversation. Yeah. As much as I love the Marvel movies, I will always say that 70% of the Marvel movies are very formulaic because they found a formula that works, and that's cool. We enjoy it. We go. We know what we're expecting.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't provoke discussion.
Like, nobody's discussed Ant-Man.
Like, yes,
we will though.
We love Ant-Man. We love Paul Rudd.
I know you love Ant-Man way more than I do.
Yes,
yeah, but you know, like it was good, but we're not going to be like, you know, we're going to talk about Avengers Endgame, and we're going to talk about, you know, like the new shows that are coming out because they're supposed to have all these ramifications. Yeah, we're not going to talk about Thor, the Dark World.
No, Zack Snyder does provoke, which is
what an artist, quote unquote, should do.
Yeah. And I think this is I would argue, and you might agree with me, that this is very much an art film.
Yes. 100%.
It's a big budgety studio art film.
That was a short film first. That's how this feels like. It was a short film, and somebody at Warner Brothers saw it and was like, here's more money. Yeah. Make this more.
And
they didn't give him that much money, though.
Now, here's the thing that I want to bring up, too. Frank Miller, in his book, puts this sort of bookends to it, where with this story with the wolf. Do you remember the story?
Yeah.
All right, recap it for us.
So he's thrown into the wild as part of a Spartan rite of passage as like 12 or 13, I think they show him. And he's trying to survive in this cave, and he's attacked by a wolf. And he lures
any ordinary wolf. This thing is huge.
Yes. But again, it is all a story. Everything's bigger when you tell it. Everything's exaggerated. So he manages to, very similar to the actual battle that they're going to deal with, lure him into a small crevice where no matter how big or strong you are, it's about superior tactics. Yeah. And he's able to get the wolf stuck, and he impales it, wears it back as a symbol of his victory.
Wait, are you saying there was foreshadowing?
What? Oh my God! Look at Ronnie.
Wow, Ronnie gets the A in English for the day.
Ronnie, why does Google say foreshadowing on there?
It does not. I'm actually smarter than I look and sound.
That's a good thing we're not doing video tonight.
Got a face for radio.
A face for radio. Yeah.
And a voice to be quiet.
Yeah. What?
What does that even mean?
It means I shouldn't talk.
It means he should be doing podcasts with us. Yeah, we didn't even make it to face for radio. But you know, I mean, the opening scene is a pure parallel to what happens in the rest of the movie. So,
and this is the point I'm making. Now, I don't know if you remember, like 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I talked about that the best stories reflect the the best stories not only have outer conflict but also have inner conflict.
And Folgers in your cup. I got you, Ronnie.
The outer conflict is Xerxes and his armies and them coming in. That is the struggle. That is the outer conflict that we have to survive through this. The inner conflict is him growing as an individual. Now, and if you remember, I brought up Bond. Bond in Casino Royale, when we first see him, he is like a brute force of a man who just he doesn't think things through, and he's not a very intelligent agent, and that's his internal struggle.
It's short game versus long game.
Exactly. And in 300, you have that internal struggle with the wolf of, I need to think back. How was I with this? What did I learn from that? And how can I develop from that? And that's the internal struggle of him becoming a master strategist in battle because of the lessons he learned in his youth.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what makes this superior Zack Snyder is because you have that internal and external conflict. Whereas in so many, Sucker Punch...
No.
Sucker Punch was more like, I'm going to win this battle. I don't care about the war. While 300 is more like, I'm worried about the war. If I lose this battle, that's okay as long as I still win the war.
Also, for me, Sucker Punch was more show don't tell, or it's hard to I'm trying to explain it. Like 300, nobody had to tell me here are the parallels.
Yeah.
I got it. Like I watched it. I was like, oh, that's what happens to them. And I get it. Sucker Punch needs so much explanation. Where it's here's the visual representation of the internal struggles that they're all doing. It's all bring and bite and like there's a great moment where Xerxes is talking to Leonidas, and Leonidas is really doubting, am I doing the right thing? Yeah. And what a great character moment for somebody, especially who from the age of, I don't know, not being thrown off a cliff old has been taught.
I think that's
we are Spartans. This is how we live. This is how we manage our society. We fight when we know we're going to lose, and there's honor in that. And that's where the phrase come back with your shield or on it comes from. It's either you win or you die losing.
Yeah.
You don't come back otherwise. And I think that this movie does a great job. Leonidas does struggle, and he's at that point where it's my people or my culture. And I think that this movie does a great job because he does offer, like, he's like, guys, go home. If that's, but they all are the same warrior mindset where they're like, we're going to stay. But I think the Greeks do leave. And he sends the one who loses his eye, who's telling the story back. He's like, you need to tell this story.
Right.
So
fun fact
about
the comeback with your shield or on it was actually said by the women to the men and the sons.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah.
Because
another fun fact, in history he lost his eye to an infection.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Not in battle.
Staff.
But yeah, you're absolutely right that there are moments when King Leonidas is struggling with, am I doing the right thing? And I love that line too, and it's directly ripped from Frank Miller's piece where he talks about Xerxes' hubris, the idea that I think I'm greater than I actually am, and I'm going to prove it. And it's the what's his name's son flying too close to the Icarus. Thank you. Wow, look who was paying attention.
Oh, I know my mythology.
Oh, nice.
Not just supernatural mythology.
It's Icarus's son flying too close to the sun.
Would you believe that my wife actually loves me more when I make comments about actual mythology?
I don't want to know what you two do when you're alone.
I wear wings and I fly too close to the sun, apparently.
But yeah, that's hubris, where you think you are invincible and immortal, and that's Xerxes, and Leonidas realizes he is not immortal, and I love there's so many great shots in Frank Miller's comic of Leonidas looking at the ground and being pensive and internalizing everything and debating what's right and what and I think that's where Zack Snyder benefits from that. Yeah, he shines from it because he pulls those themes, whereas in his later work he's just like, I want to make this look cool.
Well, also there's a great parallel between Xerxes and Leonidas. Xerxes is, I am a god, I'm going to be immortal, I should live as an immortal, I'm a god born onto earth and I'll have eternal life. And Leonidas is like, I'm a warrior, I'll die and I will go to, like, very Viking, like very Valhalla, and like I will have my great victory and my great death and my beautiful death and all that. So they're very good parallels. Xerxes is what Leonidas could be.
He could.
Yeah.
Like if Leonidas came back and he was like, hey, I'm God, like nobody's going to argue with him. So the parallels are very good. Like, the absolute, it's a testament to his character, though. Leonidas does care about his people, and he wants to be a good and a just king, but he's also a leader that leads from the front rather than giving orders from the back like Xerxes.
You're only a leader if people are following you, and he leads by example.
And also, he had one goal, to make Xerxes bleed. He knew he wasn't going there to win. But he was like, I'm going to show that even a god can bleed. It's very Iron Man 2. Ivan Vanko says to Tony Stark, he's like, if you can make God bleed, people would stop believing in him. And that's when the sharks come. So I do enjoy, like, for such a quote-unquote simple movie, the fact that we're sitting here for almost an hour and 12 minutes really just still dissecting it is a testament to its staying power.
And it is that good. I really recommend you see this. And I have to say, even though I trash Army of the Dead, I would encourage you to see it just for the fact that there are moments of it that are really great and cool. They're like, I will say he's got, I don't know what it is about Zack Snyder, but he loves his opening credit montages.
Watchmen is still his best.
The opening credit montage for Army of the Dead has Vegas being taken by zombies, and it's a 5 minutes of fun, like with sort of incongruous music playing of Elvis over people dying from zombies. It's great.
Very Zombieland.
I just wish that the rest of the movie was like that. And then we'll wrap this up with this comment too of that in Army of the Dead, no one has that internal conflict.
Well, I will still say that one of his biggest misses ever was that he did not start off Batman vs Superman with a credit montage of the two of them conflicting, where it's like Superman saving a cat out of a tree and then Batman stringing somebody up over a rooftop. That was the biggest missed opportunity. One of the biggest missed opportunities in Batman vs Superman was they had that, because it starts off with a really strong opening scene, with the exception of the Wayne's dying. We don't need to see it 12 times, but the scene of him and Bruce Wayne in Metropolis is still one of my favorite superhero scenes of all time. Yeah. Had that movie started off with literally that cut to white, that scene, and then the opening credits had been like a montage of
something like
Superman
David
and Batman
Bowie's Heroes or something,
and that's a great show and tell.
Yeah,
it's here's Superman saving cats out of trees. Here's Batman scaring the piss out of Joe Schmo robber who's like, I'm gonna steal this from this gas station.
On a side note, I read this week that Zack Snyder, we almost had a Zack Snyder Star Wars series.
I did not read that.
No,
I
really?
would not be okay with that.
Zack Snyder was actually tapped to do a what is it when they do 3 movies? Trilogy. Thank you. Words elude me.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, we almost had a Zack Snyder Star Wars trilogy that we were this close.
Well, see,
with the right scripts.
This is my thing. You give Zack Snyder someone that's like, this is the script. We have to stick to this. And listen, and he's in charge of cinematography. He just makes it look pretty. You'd have a great movie if you have the right writers. You have someone that can be like, listen, you can't deviate from what the writers want, and everything. But you got to make it look how you want to make it look. You're gonna have a good movie.
It was got Paul counter.
I would not want Zack Snyder to ever do a Star Wars movie. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
well, I'm not just saying Star Wars. I'm just saying Zack Snyder in general making a movie just needs to handle the way things look,
and that's why for something
and not dialogue or anything like that.
That's why for something like Star Wars, which does, despite what a lot of people think, it does have a very unique style and editing and the wipes, and I don't think Zack, and there's not slow motion. There's no slow motion in Star Wars, guys. I can't. No.
What, you wouldn't want to see a slow-mo lightsaber fight?
No, because it would for some reason it would just be when the lightsaber comes out, just really slow motion, like
the first half hour is all about lightsabers coming out.
And it's gonna, and knowing Zack Snyder, and I hate to say it, it's gonna be so suggestive. And so erotic.
Yeah, I have to say, and that is something that we didn't really touch upon here, is that Zack Snyder fetishizes everything.
So I will never justify this movie's existence, but around the same time, the other big trope was the spoof movie trope.
Oh my God, I know where you're going.
So they had a movie called Meet the Spartans.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, I will never justify this movie, but unfortunately it does have points of merit. Mm-hmm. Number one is they cast Kevin Sorbo as the captain, and he's fantastic, and he does a great job with it. But they play up the homoerogenous aspect of the Spartans to a comedic effect, and it's actually really funny when he's talking about how they're going to defeat the Persians. He's like, so we're going to sneak around behind them and take them from the rear, and like the oracles are just like. Yeah, you're gonna do that, and it's all just like really suggestive dialogue, and it's a great spoofing point. And the actor they get to play Leonidas in Meet the Spartans is
Sean
actually,
McGuire.
Yeah, he's actually really funny, and I've seen him in some other stuff. But it's really bad. But they poke fun at it, and yes, in this movie, the banana hammocks and they're all oiled for some reason. It's not even that hot out.
Yeah.
No. They're never hydrated, it feels like. But there is a lot of. But again, there's also a point where this was the graphic novel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think Zack Snyder was the perfect choice to make this graphic
because a
novel.
lot of people wouldn't have. Like, look at Watchmen. They tried to get rid of naked Dr. Manhattan, but that was an aspect of his character.
Really was.
Yeah.
He was like, and that's the thing that people don't get, and that's the point. He was so far evolved, and especially by the end of it, when he was ready to be like, humanity's not, it's stupid. He was so far evolved that he's like, why do we care about clothes? Like that's just where his mind was.
Right, and it makes sense for the character.
So to have him just be, buff most of the time, like, that for him, that was just totally normal. It was only when they were like, yeah, you're going to be on TV. You need a suit. He's like, okay.
On a side note, since you mentioned about, cool shots of with Zack Snyder in Army of the Dead takes over the position of director of photography. Now, if you're not familiar with what that job is, that's the person who holds the camera and decides where it goes and what shots look like. Decides what lens you use, what kind of focus you use. And I challenge you to watch Army of the Dead and not be frustrated by the focus of it, because there are so many scenes where it's such a shallow focus where you only see like what's in 3 feet in front of the camera and everything else is blurred out for some reason, and it is so annoying throughout the entire thing.
Another director that's famous for that is Kevin Smith, and to the point where Bruce Willis and he had words about it, because Bruce Willis, they did a movie called Cop Out, and it's because he wanted to work with Bruce Willis. He works with him on Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
I think that was the one.
I believe it was.
And he's like, I really want to work with you on. I have this film, and Cop Out, because it was a cop out. It was his studio was like, we're going to give you money. You got to do a film for us.
Right.
Here's your 7 View Askewverse films. But you got to do 7 for you, 1 for us, Kevin. So he does this cop movie, and
turn out well.
Him and Bruce Willis had a lot of problems working together, and he'll talk your ear off about it. God, Kevin Smith talks a lot for being Silent Bob. But
now, for a Kevin Smith film, though, like shallow focus works because it's all about the dialogue.
What I was going to say,
Cop Out, no.
But what I was going to say was, like, Bruce Willis would ask, like, well, what kind of lens are you using? And Kevin Smith,
he doesn't know anything about that.
He doesn't. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, the director doesn't necessarily know the technical aspects.
They know who to hire for those things.
Yeah. And that's the point. That's why there is a director of photography that's who scouts the locations and sets up the establishing shots and all that stuff. There's the key grip who's in charge of making sure the sound sounds a certain way. There's a lot of film. A film is not just like I humbly I learned this just doing YouTube stuff for our show.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, the amount of effort that goes in. Like, I used to make fun of YouTubers that just sat in front of their computer, they talked, and they're like, oh, we make millions of dollars every day. And I was like, it's work. It is editing. It is this. It is that. It is, if we have to come back and do it again because the shot wasn't perfect, like, I can't even imagine telling you two we got to come back and redo the podcast.
Good luck with that.
No, that's why we record on Fridays, so I have Saturday and Sunday to convince you to come back. But all
right. So I think that. Oh, and then finally, I just wanted to really talk about this for 30 seconds. The look of the film.
It's beautiful.
It is. Yes, there is. They use a technique called, I think it's crushing. I think it is.
I think so.
Where they take all of the darkest things and all of the lightest things, and then they eliminate all the other stuff in between. Yeah. And I can't wait to talk about that for Sin City next week.
Also, this film was mostly done on blue screen instead of the traditional green screen.
Gosh, yes, there was only one shot that was done outside.
And the reason they used blue screen is because they felt that it worked better with the color saturation they were choosing to do. Most places use green screen. Your average local weatherman uses green screen. Green screen's been around forever because green is not a naturally occurring color like that. I've never really seen anybody who's even worn a shirt that matches a green screen shirt. It's very rare.
Yeah,
just the Queen.
Just the Queen.
I don't know. I don't know if you saw that. It was about 6 months ago that the Queen of England wore a green screen shirt, and so that allowed everyone to green screen whatever they wanted onto her.
Yep. Oh yeah. But that's a nice little tip, like a little thing that they were doing. And unfortunately, this was also the big time where a lot of things were done on green screen.
Yeah.
Like Sin City, I think, was almost completely done on a green screen lot. And you can see it with and The Spirit too, which we'll talk about. Even though Ronnie hasn't seen it, Rob hasn't seen it.
I haven't either. I can't wait to see it.
Sean's gonna want to guest star on that one, just so you guys
really?
know. Oh, because he and I both.
I didn't know I struck gold on that one.
Well, the Spirit is one of those rare movies. Another
Frank Miller, which is
just it had all the elements to work, and then it just doesn't.
Oh, I can't wait.
It is so cheesy bad, and talk about a movie that is not aged well at
So we'll be visiting that, and I think in 3 weeks,
something like that. We're talking talking
Sin City next week, and then a Green Lantern special in between.
Yeah. So I think that's
that's Sin City. That's the look, and we'll talk more about that when we get to those films, because that look imitates the Frank Miller style very much. So, Star City rating, gentlemen. Ronnie.
I'm gonna have to give this a 3.5.
Okay.
I think it's I'm tempted to say this is probably his best work, meaning Zack Snyder's best film. I think a 3.5 is solid for this. Visually it was great and everything. Just like he normally does. And it's I am a sucker for historical pieces. I do love the historical pieces and everything.
Not a sucker punch. Just
no.
Of a Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, exactly. I love Saving Private Ryan. But my only downfall is, like I said earlier, is the first 30 minutes or so of this movie. It's just, all right, when's the fighting starting? Like it was a bunch of stuff that you didn't really need to know.
Stop punching that child.
I'll ask this question real quick in 10 seconds. Summarize the entire difficulty that the Queen has with the Senate. What is her issue? Go.
Her issue is that they won't back him up.
Why?
Because what's his name is paid off by Xerxes.
Oh, you know way more than I do. Because I was gonna say my eyes glazed over during those scenes.
Because he promises to help back her to send reinforcements, and when he doesn't, after he also sexually assaulted her, which that's a tough scene to watch. She does get her comeuppance on him, but still
she kills him.
And when she kills him, all the Persian coins fall out of his purse.
Yes,
which doesn't make sense because he's got Xerxes money, which doesn't.
Well, it's still gold coins.
Yeah, but it's in a non-Xerxes place.
But what happens when he wants Xerxes to take over? That money suddenly went.
So you're
that's
saying
like investing in Bitcoin before it went open.
I need to get some. And what are those things called? The NTSs or.
The NFTs.
NFTs. I need to get me some NFTs.
I know, right? Apparently, Charlie bit my finger. Just sell it for $750,000.
Yeah.
All right, so 3.5 from Ronnie. Paul.
I am also going to go 3.5. I think this was a very good early attempt at a comic book movie. While we have been spoiled in terms, that's the problem with comic book movies. At this point, I love Superman, the original movie. It does not stack up though against even Man of Steel, the Christopher Reeve version.
Richard Donner. Yeah.
This generation especially is very lucky that we are growing up at a time where superhero movies are at their peak. Comic book movies are at their peak. Unfortunately, 300 people don't remember is a comic book movie and also a Zack Snyder property. And I think maybe now with all the Zack Snyder stuff, it's finally going to get a little bit more love. Like, it got a lot of love to begin with, and it is, God, is it quotable? Like, all were quoting that
this is Sparta.
It's so meme-worthy.
That's probably like the most quotable, one of the most quotable lines ever.
I told Timmy that I was watching 300 this week, and he goes, I don't know what that is. And I just went, this is Sparta. And he goes, oh.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he knows that line.
But even like a lot of the lines that are actually historically accurate, like Tonight We Dine in Hell, even though apparently it was Tonight We Dine in Hades, but Hell is the more common vernacular.
Hell sounds better.
But it does sound better. Like, so many just great lines. And also, again, the more I watch this movie, especially now, Leonidas is a really good guy.
Yeah.
Like, even when he's explaining to every time I say his name differently, the Hunchback guy, when he first is like, hey.
Quasimodo?
Yeah. Him too. Like, he's not just dismissive of him. He's like, hey, he came to talk to me. He's allowed to talk to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Michael Fassbender's like, get out of here, you. And
he's a bit more dismissive in the graphic novel, but just slightly.
This movie made him very likable. Like, Leonidas is like, hey, this is why I can't have you in our phalanx, but you can still help and be a part of your people.
You're talking about Ephialtes?
Ephialtes, thank you. Yeah,
I'll do it with my Greek accent. Ephialtes.
Oh yeah. Oh, just got warm in here. Guys with
I
accents.
love me some gyro.
What? Get out of here.
It's gyros. The G is silent.
My big fat Greek podcast.
I gotta admit,
Actually
if
had a
you've seen
gyro
my
today.
big fat Greek wedding, it is not exaggerated at all. That was
I
my
know.
upbringing.
My cousin married a Greek girl,
Yeah.
and to see the cultures is just a lot of fun.
My wife married into a Greek family, and that movie was exactly our wedding. That was our whole life.
I love it. But this movie, Leonidas is likable. He's an underdog, but at the same time, like bigger than life, and he's what a lot of guys want to be. We all want to be like that really just strong, powerful, well-respected, but at the same time also just good guy. He reminds me a lot of Chris Evans as Captain America, where he's not running around saying I'm better than you, but he's like, well, no, Tony, I'm not going to sign the Sokovia Accords because it's the right thing to do. He's very similar in that.
He leads by being right and by sticking to his principles and by working harder than everybody else.
There's a phrase that I like called being the man's man. He is what men respect, not just admire and want to be like, but also just you also want to like go have a beer with him. Like he's the kind of person that will always have your back and always fight for you and this and that, and he's never vindictive. He's strong, powerful, and he's ripped like nobody's business. And that is just, there's just something very likable about Leonidas, and it helps the movie as a whole also be just a little bit better.
Maybe not a beer, but at least shots of ouzo.
Shots of protein shakes. What are you talking about, Rob?
So, despite the fact that my King Leonidas has a very heavy Scottish accent throughout the entire thing, you'll be surprised to hear that I'm actually going to give this a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
I think it works on so many levels. I think it is a groundbreaking film in terms of bringing graphic novels to life. I thought it was a great first for so many things. It is easily Zack Snyder's, as Ronnie said, it's Zack Snyder's best film. It hits so many things right. Yes, it's got its fetishism way out of control and out of check. But this is Zack Snyder being reined in by Frank Miller. And Frank Miller knows what he's doing. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if Frank Miller was producer on this, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear if he was. And he had input on this. And this was, this is when Zack Snyder hadn't quite proven himself yet, because he had only done Dawn of the Dead, and he needed to prove himself, and he really rose to it. And he incorporated the themes and a lot of the brilliance of the graphic novel. And it works on so many levels. So that wraps up our 300. Just to give you a highlight as to what's coming up next week, we're looking at Frank Miller's Sin City. But before we go in, what?
Are we talking Sin City 1 and 2 or just
1 and 2?
Okay.
We are doing Sin City and Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, because I don't know how much we're going to have to say about that one.
It's going to be much shorter than the first.
That usually happens with sequels.
Now is the time that we look at Fan Feedback Friday, as Paul quickly pulls this up.
No, I had it.
Oh, he's got it.
Yeah,
He's ready to go.
I got it.
Look at him.
So I have to say, this being that it's Memorial Day weekend, I had the day off, and so I spent my entire time unplugged today doing some painting around the house. So I don't even know what the question is.
So the question was, what is the greatest comic book line of all time? Just something iconic, something memorable, something that when you think comic book phrases, you think this phrase. So, because I wanted one that also was, this is Sparta. That's but again, people don't always remember that 300's a comic book movie. So a couple of the ones that we got were I Am Vengeance, I Am the Knight, I Am Batman from the animated series, and I really do enjoy Pattinson's drop of it in the trailer.
Yes.
We need to see more of that movie. Like I hate being optimistic. This one's obscure, and I definitely want to yell at the person who picked it. It's
It
not
wasn't me, because I didn't even know this.
It's not dying that you need to be afraid of. It's not having lived in the first place.
I don't know the reference.
It's Seth Rogen's Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet.
Yeah. Because I went with what's a great quote, not necessarily what's one that's so well known. So I was like, that's a great quote to just live by, though.
Because why listen to the actual question? when you're a top fan of the show.
It's a what was the question?
Iconic.
That's not.
What are some of the most iconic? Oh, excuse me. It was the greatest comic book lines of all time. Iconic.
Tell me that's not a great line to live by. That's just a great line to live by.
I'm just gonna keep going. We also had "It's Clobbering Time," which I definitely agree is an iconic comic book line. And with great power comes great responsibility. I will always.
What about Martha?
That wasn't. Get out of here.
I think we have a late breaking comment coming in.
Oh yeah, do we?
Yeah.
I should definitely go back to the page that I was on for that, and definitely go to. Oh my God, it's Rob Lobel. What's up, Lobel?
Lowball?
And this late breaking news.
I really hope it's Avengers.
Iconic.
Waffles.
Smorgasbord.
Waffles. It's Teen Titans.
Yeah.
All right.
Teen Titans Go specifically.
See, I was very surprised we got no Avengers Assemble.
Well, because it was in the picture.
I know, that's why I put it there.
But I'm saying that I think that's why people didn't put it.
I also was very surprised that we did not get I'm Here to Fight for Truth, Justice, and the American Way.
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever.
I'm here to kick bubblegum and...
Here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I'm going to kick bubblegum into the stick to my shoe.
Sorry, guys. If it's not a Marvel movie, I don't know it.
Blew that one.
Oh, edit.
Do it again.
Please don't.
So,
please
did
don't.
I forget any parts of the show?
I think just, would you like me to tell people how they can get in touch
Oh,
with us?
yeah, sure. Why don't you tell us how we can get people in touch with us?
So, as you guys heard, Rob did say we are talking about Sin City next week, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on Sin City and kind of the craze that it started, because Sin City really started a very specific look of comic book movies, including 300 and The Spirit, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So you can find us at our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you'll find access to all of our content, whether it's other podcasts that we do, including Cinematic Adventures, and any future podcasts we may be working on. There's also a way for you to leave us comments and suggestions on our website where you can tell us, what do you want from us?
What do you want?
What do you want from me?
I opened the door. But what other things
didn't
that you
close
want?
it.
Whether it's more YouTube content, more fan feedback questionnaires, shorter podcasts, reviews.
Less Rob as host.
More Rob as
More
host.
Rob as host.
More research, because Rob does really good research. Ronnie and I check the interwebs.
A lot of show
Wikipedia.
prep involved here.
Yeah. I usually show prep like 5 seconds into the recording.
Yeah, that's about
I start show prepping as soon as I know what the topic is. I just want to note that right here on the desk I have Frank Miller's Sin City 1 and 2 sitting here waiting for me to read this week.
Just so you guys know, I had a poster of Jessica Alba from Sin City in my room as a teenager, and that was my research.
That's his show prep.
And my wife did too. Producer Melanie is chiming in the background with a hand raised saying, I did too. That's why we got married. But
I didn't
anyway.
need a poster.
You had a Margot Robbie poster, sweetie. But anyway, you can also find us on any podcast searching app. Number one for us is Podbean. So if you guys are on Podbean, make an account, follow us. The biggest thing that we need from you guys is reviews and comments and shares. It helps the network grow. It helps our numbers go up. The higher our numbers, the higher we go up on the algorithms for all these things. Just so you guys know, Apple Podcasts recently revamped their podcast system completely. No woohoo.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
It's a giant mess. We've been on there for years, and we're still on there, both of our podcasts. So if you guys are using Apple Podcasts, please, stars and reviews. It makes a big difference because they're a mess right now.
Yeah.
And podcasters all around the world are really struggling with their new setup because new setups mean new bugs. But you can find us also on Stitcher. You can find us on our iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, which apparently all these things are things we never knew.
Tune in.
Tune in, yes. Alexa can play us if you ask her very nicely and very carefully. So the more interaction you guys have with us, even if it's just a download or a share, it makes a big difference, and we do highly, highly appreciate it. And, of course, if you guys are looking for energy drink supplements or any sort of health and fitness supplements, we have Raise Energy has been a big sponsor of us by Rep Sports. I believe if you use the code MISFIT.
And what's that code?
Misfit89 at checkout, you'll get 15% off. Or if you want to support Bibliophiles Assemble, you can find them on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram. It's a great way to interact with the fans and interact with us. And I think that wraps me up because I'm tired.
Be on the lookout for a giveaway coming up.
This is news. Is it going to be with the use of a t-shirt gun?
Yes, it will. I will shoot it at someone's face here.
He's literally just going to make me stand in the backyard throwing T-shirts.
So thank you all for joining us this week. We look forward to hearing back from you. I'm Rob.
I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Paul.
And we'll be back in a flash.
Smorgasbord?
See ya.